Hello again, everybody. This is John with BestPriceNutrition.com. Today I have Bruce from Garden of Life. He's the national educator for Garden of Life. When we have Bruce in town, we like to take advantage of using him in videos because he's very science-driven, and he's not just here to push products. He's very well educated and talks about things. So usually we're reticent to have somebody from a company representing products in our videos, but with Bruce it's a little bit different because he really sticks to the facts, so we really like that. And Bruce is tall, I'm not short, just to make that clear, so because I know the comments will be coming, so keep doing that in these videos with Bruce. But today we're going to talk about Garden of Life Primal Defense Ultra. It's a probiotic product, and we talk a lot about probiotics from time to time, and it's an area where a lot more research is being done. So when we talk about probiotics, and we talk about, I guess we started off with the number of bacteria in the body relative to human cells. What are we talking about?
We're talking, guys, it's 10 to 1. You have 100 trillion bacterial cells, you have 10 trillion human cells. Some books actually almost beg this tongue-in-cheek question. They'll be like, so are you more bacteria, or are you really more human? And the answer is you're more human, because a bacterial cell is really small. A human cell is 100,000 times larger than a bacterium. So you're still mostly human. But we have 3 to 5 pounds of bacteria in our gut, and these things do all kinds of stuff. I mean, a lot of people think the idea of swallowing bacteria, still I meet people who say, that seems really odd, you're swallowing what they perceive as germs, so it seems like healthy germs is what we're saying. Really, guys, it's an old, outdated view. I mean, healthy germs is what you could call probiotics, but they are essential to human health. I mean, as you said, there's so much research pouring out. What they really do, when you get down to it, they make acids, they make enzymes, and they make vitamins. I mean, it's hard to help a human body in more ways than those, I would say. But what really, this one, Primal Defense, this is our first product. I mean, Garden of Life, we're a digestive health company. Technically, this is actually the best-selling probiotic of the decade. In fact, back in 2003, it was the #1 product in the whole industry. I mean, Primal Defense is kind of a legend in this industry because it has turned around so many lives. I will tell you that a lot of people work for this brand, Garden of Life, because of this product and their experience with it. It was a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, and as we discussed, there's a lot of work being done on the whole human gut biodome. I think a lot of it's being done at NYU at the Blazer Lab. They've done a lot of really good research that's really interesting, and there's a whole theory now with most diseases being caused by some underlying infection.
That's right.
We tend to treat symptoms, but they're really looking at these labs, the actual cures, and looking at, well, what causes these autoimmune disorders, or basically even down all the way down to cancer and stuff, and what influences all of these things. And it seems there's a really key role of the bacteria, the microbes that actually live in your gut, all the way down to obesity, actually.
Yeah.
What signals are sent to your brain, and how metabolism is affected. There's just so much that we don't know. The more we know, the more we realize we don't know. But what we do know is that these play a key role. The specifics we're still learning more and more about, correct?
That's really right. Right now there's a huge project, it's international, it's called the Human Microbiome Project, and they're mapping out the entire speciation and all the strains that live in a human body. It's about 10,000 strains. I mean, so there's a lot more going on than people thought, and these little critters, they have far-reaching effects. I mean, it's really impressive to start studying all the inflammatory changes or the neurological changes. As you said, I mean, there's a lot of the latest stuff's about obesity. You're exactly right.
Yeah, like you say, even neurological, like depression, I mean, things like that. If you're off, because I think sometimes we do things where we think, oh, it's too simple.
Right.
For instance, to go to the doctor and not be asked, well, what do you eat?
Right.
And people, oh, that's too simple. I mean, and it's just because some people just don't think that way. Well, it can't be that. Well, how could it not be? Are you kidding me? How could that not play a key role in things in your body? So I find that just crazy. And like we talked about, they find a common link between obesity right now and gut biodome. How there's some things are lacking.
Yeah, people who are obese have a different microbial population. People who have IBS have a different microbial population. And when it comes down to that population, that ecosystem, we're all little unique snowflakes. Even identical twins don't have the same gut. I want to point out that your gut actually has more neurotransmitters than your brain. There's 400 times as much GABA in the gut as there is in the brain. Approximately the same for serotonin. More than, I think it's like 85-90% of all the serotonin is made in the enterochromatin cells in the gut. So I mean, guys, there's more nerve endings in the small intestine alone than there is in almost any other part of the body. I mean, it's approximately equal to the whole spinal column. Just in that small intestine, it's 100 million nerve cells.
Yeah,
and that's, when we start getting into the real physiology of the gut and all the far-reaching consequences of it, I mean, what's really going on out there is that everybody is getting a condition called dysbiosis. And dysbiosis doesn't get thrown around a lot in this industry. You don't hear that term. But what that means is that we're letting the opportunists, the bad critters, get a leg up and start to proliferate. And this is where, it's caused by things like chlorine, high sugar, high antibiotics, pesticides, birth control pills. I mean, we are in a modern environment where we're constantly assaulting and stripping and sterilizing little niches of our intestinal surface, and this allows the opportunists, such as fungal spores or protozoa or other bad bacteria, to move in there. And what Primal Defense does, guys, it is all about, this is really like the Navy SEALs of the probiotic world. The strains in here are really tough. They're going to survive any acid or bile or heat. I mean, actually, you can microwave these strains. You're not going to kill them. And really, furthermore, what they do is they're kind of aggressive. They're like the Navy SEALs in the sense that they kind of clear back the brush and level the landscape. Some people are going to feel kind of a detoxification symptom. How does it feel when you send down the commando units and they kill all the bad critters and destroy them into all these little shrapnel pieces? They call them endotoxins. And these little pieces of spore wall and viral membranes get absorbed into the lymph, and you feel kind of sick. And so I want to point that out for the listeners and viewers, that this can actually, sometimes some people are going to feel like a bomb went off in their colon if they jump to 6 a day or something. And we would honestly offer that some people need a bomb going off in their colon. We want you to start slow, drink plenty of water, maybe consider bentonite clay if you're having a really tough ride. That bentonite clay can help absorb all the waste products, and you'll eliminate them a lot better. But this is really, I honestly want to call it a cleanse.
So this has a soil microbe in there specifically, which, like you said, is able to live in a lot of environments. It's kind of going to cleave the surface of your GI tract. It's a bit of a burrower. Whereas, just say like acidophilus on its own probably may not be able to have that effect. It's more going to come in and kind of look for the party, so to speak, than its niche, but may not be able to get it because these other bacteria are already in there and they're already using up those resources. So you want to make sure you have something that's going to get in there and, like you said, cleave that surface.
Yeah,
of the
it dives
GI
down
tract.
deeper into that mucosal wall and gets rid of those pathogens that are kind of entrenched and really rooted into that gut. Because they're living in those little crypts in between the villi, and that's where you really want to get. You mentioned acidophilus. We make raw probiotics. Really, I would say it's the best conventional probiotic in the business. 30 plus strains, and this is, like you said, acidophilus and all those other related species. Those make acids. That's actually why they call it acidophilus. It's an acidophile. It loves acid. That's what it means. And the whole point is that we make both of these. They can be taken together, although I had a person tell me that didn't just make them go number 2. They went number 3 and 4.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Aliens came out of their bodies,
Sure.
so to speak. So I think, you want to go slow with that because it can be quite a cleanse. But a lot of people have a lot of gut stuff going on. I honestly think if you have a skin condition, any skin problem going on in the body, that has dysbiosis written all over it 100% of the time. I don't believe you can even get a skin pathology without a gut issue.
Sure. Yeah, most things start and end with the gut.
That's right.
And one thing to touch on too is that sometimes people are worried, well, if I order these or if I leave them out, they're going to die. We wish bacteria were that easily killed in the sense of the bad guys. There's a reason they put surgical tools through an autoclave where you need heat and pressure.
Yeah.
They don't just die that easily. They're quite hardy, so to speak. So it's not like, oh, they're just going to die because they got delivered to me over the course of 3 days. You could throw them into a microwave, like you said, and they're going to be fine.
Yeah, don't do that with this one.
Yeah, we don't recommend doing that. Even with this one, though, too, I would guarantee the counts are still going to be relatively high.
Yep.
So I just think people sometimes get that idea in their head, and these little bugs are not that easy to kill. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all the, resistance.
How would they have fermented food in the tropical islands hundreds of years ago?
Sure. And there's so many environments they can do. And something we touched on too, real quick, is we get a lot of questions too. Hey, I'm lactose intolerant, blah blah blah. Well, the reality is, if you're lactose intolerant, it's really a sign that you lack the gut flora to properly break down lactose. Because I don't think any humans actually have an innate ability to break down lactose in and of themselves. They need the bacteria to do that for them. Correct?
Yeah.
So that's an area.
There's a lot of debate about that, whether lactase
Sure.
persists. I think there may be some other input on that. But
some genetics
right.
may
When
play a
people
role
come
if you're
to
talking Northern Europeans, so to speak. That's been
Yeah.
thought that they produce more lactase, but generally speaking, it's a
Yeah, when people say they're lactose intolerant, I usually think they're talking about pasteurization intolerance.
Mhm.
Once you strip out all the enzymes and bacteria from the milk, you basically created liquid sheetrock. Hate to say it, but that's what modern milk is. And that's why, most Americans, actually, if they have good probiotic bacteria, they'll have a lot easier time. And that's what's stripped from modern milk. So yeah, I think most people aren't really lactose intolerant, they're pasteurization intolerant. That means it all back to the bacteria, back to those enzymes.
Sure, and as we talked about, gut health is so important, and there's so many people who now we have here with IBS and GERD and all these other issues that they're, and you're lucky, I guess, if you show symptoms of it, but it's more and more common, I think, for those things to be happening. So we don't want to just say, hey, if you just take this, that's going to cure everything. That's not at all what we're saying, because the human body doesn't work that way. It doesn't, we get these questions where people want to give like this magic isolated answer, but the body doesn't work in an isolated fashion. If you're making your body a petri dish for bad bacteria, you're constantly eating too many polyunsaturated fats and just junk all the time.
Yeah.
We all know certain things in moderation are fine, unless you're somebody who's otherwise got some kind of chronic disorder. Then you probably have to be really strict. Like you can't have any gluten or any of this and that. But most people can apply the 90-10 rule. Like, some people call it 80-20. I like to think more like 90-10. But if you're one of those people, if you do that and you make your gut a petri dish for good bacteria, so to speak, eating good fats and things like that, and good proteins, then you're going to make everything work that much better. So I think that's a really key point that we want to cover here, too.
Absolutely. And you made a really interesting point. I always try to throw this out for all the viewers, that reflux is really misunderstood most of the time. I want to point out that the number one symptom is not heartburn. The number one symptom is actually where the fermentation gases in the stomach carry acids and enzymes and fungus up into the throat, and then you get irritation of the mucous membranes in the throat. And that's where the number one symptom is that irritation, where they feel like they have thick mucus and they're cleaving it off, going, they're doing that all the time. That is reflux. I mean, I'm not saying anytime somebody clears their throat that we know they have reflux, but look for the chronic nature of it. When they're doing that all the time, that is a very telltale sign that their gut is riddled with bad bacteria, dysbiosis, and it's really creating all kinds of problems with pylori. It creates all kinds of problems with sinus problems and migraines. I mean, all the sinus cavities, they don't want a bunch of biofilm and spores living in there.
And reflux is oftentimes then can become IBS, on Crohn's, and there's just such a strong correlation. One thing I want to touch on too, there's Saccharomyces boulardii in here, which is a probiotic yeast.
Right.
You touched on H. pylori. Now that's something that Saccharomyces boulardii specifically seems to have a pretty good record on.
That's right.
Beating it, so to speak.
Yeah, pylori, we know pylori suppresses stomach acid, right? When you're turning off stomach acid, that means foods aren't going to drain as well. That means also the foods that do drain are sort of a rotten mass, right? And so that means all the bad bacteria in the small intestine can feed on that, and they'll make hydrogen gas, and it feeds the pylori. It's like a little symbiotic relationship going on. So there's a lot of connections between the gut and the stomach and the esophagus and the throat. I think a lot of people have reflux and they don't even know it. They think in their mind, well, I would know because I would have heartburn.
Sure.
But that's actually not the main symptom.
Before they know it, then they've got IBS and so on and so forth. It kind of travels down from there.
Boulardii is one of the main components here, and this is also a great formula for when people are on antibiotics. The strains that are in here really cannot be killed by antibiotics.
They're spore formers.
They're spore formers, or they're yeast. Boulardii isn't even a bacteria.
Yep.
So antibiotics, they have no effect on yeast. So the idea is that you can even swallow this generally with the same mouthful of water as your antibiotics, and it will still do the work.
Empty stomach with food, does it matter?
I don't think it matters.
I don't either.
I really don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, if it were that touchy, then they wouldn't, again, be able to live. You know what I mean? If things were that easy, then we'd be able to cure infections so much easier too.
We wish, I love your point. We wish bacteria were that easy to kill.
Right?
Heat them up
and antibiotics are wonder drugs in the proper environment. I think that's a key point too.
We're not against antibiotics.
Yeah, I think antibiotics are probably one of the greatest inventions that have ever come to medicine. I think they're great when used, obviously not for viral infections, which seems to be more common because people make these stupid corollaries where they have a cold or something and then they take an antibiotic because their doctor didn't do a culture or do the proper steps, and then they get better. Well, you were going to get better anyways, and now you've possibly contributed to resistance, which is a real pain in the butt. And all you have to do is not just check the CDC site. It's a huge thing for them. They're irritated by that. And we're creating these superbugs, but antibiotics are great, especially when combined with the proper diet that isn't feeding the bad bacteria, so to speak. Commonly put people in the hospital, they're on TPN. Feeding them sugar and antibiotics. It's like, why? When one of these old doctors have to die, so to speak, to admit that science changes. I mean, we can't just say even things we say today may be different a couple of years from now based on research. So we really, really recommend following that research. As I mentioned, NYU, Blazer Lab, a lot of really good stuff that they're doing. So I think we're finding more and more good stuff about probiotics. So at a very, very minimum, we could say it certainly doesn't hurt to take them at a minimum. I rate them high.
I think they're one of our best products. I've seen more people change their life with probiotic type strategies than even herbs or amino acids or botanicals. I mean, I think those are wonderful therapeutic tools too. But probiotics often are much harder to get in our diet. I mean, you can get B vitamins and minerals at a lot of places,
Sure.
but you're not going to get real good lactic acid bacteria or soil-based bacteria unless you're eating very special foods that really are gone. I mean, humans nowadays don't make cultured foods and eat organ meats, and all those things that we used to do are gone.
Sure. Yeah, and if you guys watch our videos, we're pretty skeptical usually. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and, would you say every herb works and this and that? Some of them are useless. They're nonsense. They're silly. I think probiotics is definitely an area where you could certainly benefit, whether you're afflicted with some kind of condition or not. It certainly won't hurt to have them
The
in your
main
regimen.
areas, I think, would be gas, bloating, reflux, abdominal pain, any autoimmune stuff.
Improving
is another
digestion
area.
is-
Yeah, digestion is key. The immune system is in the gut. All the B cells and T cells are in the gut, so that's, there's a lot of research going into autoimmune category. There's a lot of stuff about brain, as you mentioned, obesity, depression. We're learning that when you have a leaky gut, when we allow those pathogens to puncture through the holes and make little holes in your gut, all these waste products leak out, and now your other organs get bathed in a toxic bloodbath. And this is actually turning out to have a lot to do with brain health.
And you're a tube within a tube, and certain things remain in that inner tube. They shouldn't be in the outer tube, so to speak, or in the third space, so on and so forth. We don't want that. And also, as we touched on briefly, just to wrap this up, would be strains matter. So when we say probiotics, there's a lot of probiotic supplements out there, but we know with Garden of Life that they are guaranteeing these counts. Garden of Life is constantly being watched, so to speak, so we know they're testing these things to make sure that when they say 85 billion on this one, it's actually dosed much higher than that.
That's right.
After so long, you're definitely...
We got tested in February by Consumer Labs. Mm-hmm. They announced us to have 255 billion per serving.
There you go. So you are under-promising, over-delivering, and also strains matter. The strains that are in here are actual strains that you benefit from. As we said, strains can make a difference in how, it's not just down to the species, it's the actual strain.
That's right. People think that Lactobacillus acidophilus is one strain. No, it's a whole family.
Yes.
There's really a huge number. It's like, Canis familius is every dog. That's Chihuahuas, Pit Bulls,
Humans.
Great Danes. Yeah, we're
different. So
Homo sapiens are not all the same.
Yeah, same species, different. So
different behavior.
That does matter. So keep that in mind. So if you guys have any other questions on this subject, please feel free to post them in the comments section. We're more than happy to answer them. I want to thank Bruce for coming in today to do this video. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having
And
me.
also check us out at facebook.com/bestpricenutrition. Thanks for watching.